Happy Friday, fifth graders. So we learned idioms this week that have prepositions in them, and prepositions help us know the relationship between words, point in time, direction, where something is located. So we learned over your head, too difficult or strange for you to understand. Over the hill, no longer young and therefore unable to do things that you could do in the past. Read between the lines is to guess someone's real feelings from something they say or write when they do not tell you directly. If you're between a rock and a hard place, this means there are two very bad choices. You're in a difficult situation, you're facing a hard decision, or when you have two equally unpleasant or unacceptable options. So the prepositions were over, between, and now we have down. This is the preposition down. So this is a very common idiom, down to the wire. Literally, we see the arrow pointing down and we see wire. What does it mean if you're down to the wire or the situation is down to the wire? Figuratively, it means a situation where the outcome is not decided until the very end. Let me write outcome. So something that ends in the last minute, okay, or until the last moment. All these situations are down to the wire. So when something is happening at the very last second or last minute, or when you're like in a rush to do something. So let's look at some sentences. My project is due at 4 p.m. and I'm down to the wire in completing it. I have to stay focused. Other situations are, let's say, in a sports game, soccer, basketball, whatever the case. The time is running out. The clock is ticking away. Maybe the team needs to score one more goal or one more touchdown or one more basket in order to win. So we could say, oh, it was a very exciting game. They were tied and were down to the wire, but the player made the last shot, or the player made the last touchdown, or the player made the last goal and they won. Okay, so, and let's say you are, let's say something is close, like, let's say an election results are very close and we're watching the clock, all the ballots have to come in, so we could say we're down to the wire in time and we have to finish counting all the ballots, maybe something like that. Or basically if you're like rushing, or you're rushing to the very end to finish something and you are at the very last minute, maybe you need to go to the store and the store closes at 8 p.m. So we could say I'm down to the wire. I have to get to the store before it closes because I need something for my project. Okay, so it's where something ends in the last minute, or if you're waiting till the last moment, you're down to the wire. We have been working on this prefix over, which means above. So if something's overdue, it's not due, paid, returned, etc. by the time expected. Something that is overdue should have happened or been done a long time ago. Overload is to put too many things or people on or into something, or to give someone too much work or information to deal with. Overjoyed, extremely pleased or happy, right? Not just happy, but like above. There's more to it. Overpay, to pay too much for something or to pay someone more money than they deserve. Today we have overthink. I was overthinking the problem instead of just tackling it right away. I caused myself overdue stress. And I used overdue here in this example. Overthink means to think too much about something or to think too long about something. So if you overthink something, it's above. It's too long, too much. Maybe you're making things really complicated. It doesn't have to be. So there's so many words that have the prefix over in them. And so it could be something like overeat, right? So what would that mean if you overeat? That means you ate too much. Like during a holiday, maybe I overate and I'm really full. If you are overworked, that means you're working above, you're working too much. Maybe overdress. Overdress, let's say you went to a party and you were overdressed. You were wearing something too fancy and everyone else was dressed in a casual manner. So maybe if something overflows, it goes above, like you put too much liquid into the cup and then it spilled because it was overflowing. Okay, so many words. So if you encounter another word that has over as a prefix, you're going to know that that means above. Finally, we worked on this Greek root graph, which means to write. Biography is a book that tells what happened in someone's life written by someone else. A graph is a drawing that uses a line or lines to show two or more sets of measurements that are related to each other. And geography is a study of countries, oceans, rivers, mountains, and cities, etc. And I forgot to include this here, but choreography is the art of movement in a performance, the art of how performers should move. Today we have cinematography. Cinematography, the skill or study of making films. You might recognize this Latin root cine, like for película, cine. If you go to the cine, you're going to the movies. We sometimes we say I'm going to go to the cinema. I'm going to go to the cinema is a movie theater. So cine is a Latin root meaning to move or movement. So cinematography is a study or making of films, and it's we talk about cinematography to mean how beautiful a movie is because it was shot so well and it was a very beautiful movie. Here's a cinematographer, a person making the movie. So here's an example. When I grow up, I want to take cinematography classes and create movies. I love writing scripts and creating stories that people can act out. So cine has to do with movement. Cinematography has graph in it, meaning to write or to create. So we learned Greek root graph this week. We learned prefix over. We learned prepositional idioms with prepositions. And don't forget our synonyms. We learned words or looked at words that have nearly the same meaning as another word. So great job with all the word work this week, 5th graders. And I hope that you have a beautiful weekend.